Okay, we'll start tonight's City of Olivet Planning Community Design Commission for September 5th, 2024 to order. Brian, would you mind calling the roll?
Sam Wallach.
Present.
Member Daniel Rosenberg.
Present.
Member Petrie Powell. Member Tim Spiegelglass.
Present.
Member Laura Ragsdale. Absent. Member Brian Lewis. Present. And Chairman Robert Trigal.
Present. Let it also be known that our City Council Liaison, Mayor Missy Waldman, is in attendance, as well as staff liaisons, Carlos Trejo, Director of Olivet's Planning Community Development Department, Don Doty, Senior Planner, and Jack Carswell, Planning and Zoning Administrator. Carlos, am I missing anybody online that needs to be called out? Okay, good.
No, sir.
All right. That being said, we'll go over kind of the, how we run things here. We follow an agenda type system. So typically, any petitions will be there. There'll be a staff report. Staff will go over it with commission members. Then we'll typically have some question and answers. And then typically we bring up the petitioner to kind of talk about their petition, answer any questions that we have. And then we also have time for public comments that are related to those specific agenda items. If somebody's in attendance that's has a public comment that's not related to agenda item, the next thing we talk about will be public comments not related to agenda items. So if you do, just when I ask, raise your hand, let me know. Okay. We do ask that any public comments be limited to no more than 3 minutes to be respectful of everybody's time and to make sure everybody's opinion gets heard. Sometimes we have a whole, room full of people. This time we don't. So we appreciate everyone in attendance. And if you are, Carlos, do we have anybody online besides Daniel?
No, sir, not as of yet.
Okay, good. If we do, we have to give special instructions for Zoom as well. So, okay. That being said, Carlos, did I miss anything? Okay,
No, sir.
We'll move on to general public comments. Anyone in the audience have a general public comment? Seeing none, Carlos, we just check online real quick.
There's nobody online, sir.
All right. Well, Daniel's online. We can't forget about that.
Outside of, yes, sir.
Okay, we'll move on then to old business. Item A, which is 9504 Old Bonham Road. Jeff?
Good evening, Commission. I'd like to introduce myself to Ms. Powell. I'm Jack Carswell. I'm the Planning and Zoning Administrator. I'd also like to reintroduce myself to the Commission because I've been out of the meetings since like June 20th. So I'm back and ready to go.
We're glad you're back.
Thank you. So before you today is 9504 Old Bonham Road, the 2-lot preliminary subdivision plat. This was actually in front of you guys on August 1st. And all of the information has stayed consistent, that it's currently zoned. It's currently a 47,800, is that 800? It was 87, sorry. Square foot lot zone, single family residential. With that lot will be subdivided into 2 lots, which will be lot A and B. A will be 24,142 square feet and B will be 22,945 square feet. Staff met with the petitioner prior to the August 1st meeting to address the recommended conditions of approval, for instance, talking about the portion of the code that's section 405.330, which is focusing on streets, which is like the residential collector street being Old Bonham and the necessary right-of-ways that are necessary through code. The commission deferred the petition on August 1st because no one was present to answer the questions from the public comments. Under chapter 405 of the subdivision regulations, the commission has 60 days to act upon the receipt of this and to complete the preliminary subdivision plat. Besides the background information that I just noted.
Is that 60-day limit tonight?
No, it hasn't been 60 days, but it's from when it was first introduced, right? August 1st.
August 1st. Yeah. Just curious.
Yep. And before, also in front of you, we have the staff report, the application, the preliminary subdivision plat plans, the civil engineering plans and site improvement plan, as well as we asked for an arborist report and we received that arborist report. So pertaining to the information based on the arborist report, Give me one moment here. The tree study was conducted and 26 of the trees that were on the lot were surveyed. Out of the 26 that were examined, 21 of those trees were deemed viable. And 19 of those 26 trees were indicated to be removed due to different aspects, including the construction of the driveway, sidewalk placement, utilities, as well as just the new home construction. The assessment indicated that 5 trees were deemed in poor condition, and all 5 of those trees will be removed, and 14 that were deemed viable are being removed due to the proximity of the new construction and utilities. In the total of the 14 and in total, 14 of those 21 trees that were deemed viable are being removed. So if anyone likes percentages, that's 66% of the viable trees that are on the lot to be removed.
Can I ask a question? I don't, at this point, or should I wait until he's done?
Let's
'Cause I
wait
do-
until he's done,
Okay.
you know,
Okay,
before we
that's fine.
get into it.
So
Write it down.
pertaining to other information is that staff is going to, the existing site plan submitted depicts like the seven trees and the species health and condition was unknown. However, we did get that arborist report now, so that's different on the report. And then that we were requesting that replacement with staff to plan for the condition of approval. This kind of pertains to another house or the other item as well, but staff is looking for oh my gosh, what's guidance pertaining to how to mitigate and the tree mitigation removal process, as well as what we should do in terms of the replacement process. So staff's asking the commission for guidance on that subject. Also, before you, we just talked about just to reiterate the corner lot setback regulations, that these lots will be now corner lots. So they need to abide by the 12-foot lot width, and the rear yard setback needs to be determined by that 20% lot depth. Everything else in front of you should be relatively the same from the previous meeting. However, if you have any questions, Carlos, Don, and I can answer them. Thank you.
I think, Chairman, real quickly, we want to make clear what is the process of the preliminary subdivision plat that's going before the commission. And that is to determine whether the proposed 2 lots or the split lot is consistent with the city's underlying zoning district, which is zoned SR single family residential. I'll note that we asked the petitioner to place the footprint of the home to have some visibility that the lots are viable for construction in there, but these new homes are reviewed in the phase of the community design review when that petition comes in. So these homes, while you see them here and they're pretty well detailed, may not look anything like that when they come in. They're just there for a visual purpose for the commission to get a better understanding of how that lot would accommodate improvements on the property. We also look at design height, mass during the community design review process. So again, the focus on the building footprints is for a visual assistance to see how they impact the lot as a whole, but you may not see these exact footprints later on down the road when they actually come in for those. The other things we look at is stormwater management, because that is under chapter 422. MSD has noted that there is no on-site detention required for this type of development. Unlike when we did Long Acres, MSD required on-site detention for those properties. In this case, it's under their threshold. So the city will require on-site detention when they petition for those new homes in accordance with our chapter 422 regulations. Regarding infrastructure, there are no new streets that are being constructed. All these lots easily access the existing street network. As far as utilities, electric, water, sanitary, they already exist. Those are right off of Bowen and Jacqueline. Gas service is on Old Bonham, so there are no public utilities that are going to be provided by the petitioner or in there for any of those. The city is requesting, as part of our subdivision review process, and one of our regulations is Old Bonham is a primary residential collector road, and there is a minimum right of way that we try to amass as properties developed along Old Bonham or get divided. That being the case, we are asking for an additional 5 feet of right of way on the north end of the property that parallel to Old Bonham Road, and that is being provided in the revised plat that you have here. And then we're also requesting that they replace the existing sidewalk on Old Bonham We know that sidewalk was built a little bit over 5 years ago, but given the property owner at that time not willing to grant additional easement or right of way, we were forced to kind of reduce the width of the sidewalk and do some turnarounds to make it ADA compliant. Now that it's being redeveloped, we're asking them need to remove it, replace it, and petitioners agreed to do so. You have a arborist report that identifies the tree preservation and removal in there, and you have that in your packet. And then we have it here. Here we're providing you an aerial of the existing property, and you can see in visual, they are small canopies that are in there, but there are several mature trees in there. And then you have those that are identified in the arborist report that will be maintained, and those are shown here in green. I'll note when you drive by these properties, there's a lot of shrubbery, whether that goes parallel with Jacqueline or Bowood. And understand, honeysuckle is not something that we try to preserve or maintain, and actually we're supposed to be advocating for its removal in there. But we also understand, that for some people, they value the screening that provides in there. So it's not something that's regulated by code. The city does not have a tree ordinance. And matter of fact, the council's made it clear that at this point, they're not interested in entertaining a tree ordinance that requires a permit process, but are looking for guidance from the commission if there are regulations in terms of their replacement or landscape plans in that. So at this point, I think based on the 2024 comprehensive plan update and what we've heard from the community, we're kind of engaging in this these arborist reports and determining what we're looking to try to mitigate, in terms of some of their findings. And there's a couple of things, we talked about the addition of a landscape plan, either through this process or a follow-up in the process. We haven't settled yet on replacement requirements in that. That is a discussion that we need to have. We also had some discussions about looking at canopies and being more interested in the canopy as opposed to what's underneath the tree or the tree size in this. And most of the petitioners have been supportive of looking into that or so. And we do know that some of the comments, and in this case, what we're asking here is that the landscape plan be provided at a later date for two purposes. First one, this is the first time we've dealt with this in a preliminary subdivision plat since the adoption of the 2024 comp plan. On single family homes, developers have indicated that they prefer to develop that landscape plan once they're sure or they have the buyer in place, and that may happen either during the construction process or shortly thereafter, and wanted to work with the commission in a process that maybe the landscape plan comes at a later date as opposed to being part of the approval in there. So we've been putting it as a condition of the approval that a landscape plan be provided either prior to the final or prior to an occupancy, depending on the flexibility that the commission wants to provide to the commission. So again, I'll go just kind of how Mr. Carswell had indicated. He gave an overview, but the sole purpose here is in the preliminary subdivision plat to determine its compliance with the underlying zoning district, and it complies with the district. This property is subdividable. It may not be divided in the way that the developer would prefer through the commission review process, but here he is providing two individual lots that meet the underlying zoning district regulations. In accordance to our comprehensive plan, the petitioner is willing to offer greater setbacks, front yard setbacks on Old Bottom Road to maintain that street appearance of the houses being further back from the roadway. The petitioner has agreed to access the driveways off of Jacqueline Court and Bowood as opposed to Old Bottom Road, because again, that is a collector road. We want to minimize the amount of conflict points on that road in there. And they also have agreed to improve the sidewalk system, which is something we want to improve in our pedestrian network. And there issues regarding the house design and the stormwater. Again, those are items that the commission has authority or an opportunity to discuss at this moment. But most of those specifics are addressed as these individual houses come into place. We just don't get those big subdivisions where we have, a community-wide detention system for that neighborhood or so. So I appreciate Mr. Carswell presentation, and again, petitioner is here. And they'll be glad to answer any questions, either one of us. And,
Go ahead. Or someone else? I have a question real quick, unless you want to go ahead. Is the building, the existing home already demoed?
No, sir.
Okay, and that's going to occur once they subdivide it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And right now, we don't know if these houses are going to look like this. So some of the trees that are listed to come out, talk about being removed due to sidewalks that would potentially interfere with the root system. But like some of the trees that are close, like tree Z, we're not quite, I'm not sure if we know if that's gonna be impacted if we don't have the new house design there. And then, you know, the ones like I and J, it's stated that they're going to be removed due to a manhole. But do we know the manhole is gonna actually go there?
It's down at this area.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, you know, I would imagine they want to know, they want to start taking out trees when they do the demo of the house, probably at the same time. Is that what I'm,
More than likely.
but I'm kind of wondering if we should, you know, limit how much, and, you know, like some of the trees that are kind of more on the outside of this potential footprint. To say, that's just my thought.
Actually, you hit on exactly what I was a little confused by, is that we don't have a plan for the actual houses. These are just placeholders, I assume.
Correct.
And yet there are trees that don't look to be like Z in particular, and maybe even X and W, that were originally considered to be taken out under to be removed, but viable trees. We don't know the precise location of the new structure. I would hate for us to say it's okay to take those trees out at this juncture. And so I'm having a little trouble understanding if we adopt it as is, have we now wedded ourselves to this tree plan? Or is the tree plan gonna come back with the site development or the design review process?
Both are good questions. I would have them. I would have the
What-
petitioner,
yeah,
it would
that'd be great.
best to address it.
Before you start, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Here, you gotta turn on the mic, sorry.
Yeah, lots of room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Wilmering, Companies Boulevard Custom Homes. I'm the petitioner. And to answer the question about the tree removal, I don't typically take trees out until the house is down after that. So we can deal with what trees are going to be removed once the houses are approved that are going to go in.
Okay, so you're not planning on demoing the existing house
No,
right away?
well, the existing house will come down probably 30 to 60 days before any construction is started.
Okay,
I think the city, Carlos, you remind me, they have something in place that they really want the house not taken down prior to 30 days before the new homes are going up.
makes sense. And then
Depending
we'll
on
have
the
time.
condition of the lot, if it's a walkout lot, you know, if you're gonna leave a hole in the ground, whatever, they take those things into consideration.
But Carlos, to Peachy's question though, I guess if we approve this split, are we authorizing that these trees could be removed, or are we just saying split and then we are asking them to come back before we approve any trees? I think that's where we're kind of leading.
Yeah, I think if the commission sees an opportunity for specific trees to try to be preserved, that this is the opportunity to make that clear.
Well, I guess to me that's tough because we're not arborists and we're not there on the lot, but I think,
We don't know what the footprint.
yeah, is there a way to pivot it to say, fine with the split, but would like to have come before us before any, when we actually, because if you're gonna tear it down, they're gonna know what they want to build at that point. Probably, because it's 30 days, like we talked about, and then we could reevaluate, could we make it conditional as part of those designs that we authorize the trees at that time?
I think it puts a burden on the petitioner. It's possible, of course, but I think it puts a burden on the petitioner in there. I think there are areas within the tree report, there is references to the type of tree, the size of tree, and the health of that tree. So let's take tree Z, which we see here, and it's pretty sizable here. But here it is right here. Right.
Yeah,
So
I think what we're looking at here is the drip line and the page prior to that shows which trees are going to be preserved, removed, poor
Correct.
condition. So I don't know that this particular,
So the ones that were identified or preserved are the ones that I highlighted here in green. So you had a clear understanding of, from the report, these are the ones that the arborist is indicating to stay in here. These, Mr. Wolmerine, let's say like tree Z, which is like this one, right in this area, is if there is an opportunity to maintain that tree, and I think the commission had some others that were down in this area here.
In,
is
in
what
other
the-
communities that I work within, and they take the tree canopy in consideration and the trees that are removed, they have a formula to put replacement trees in lieu of the trees that were taken out. Kirkwood, Webster, they all have formulas for that. The city, my conversation with Carlos, they haven't gotten there yet. They're still working through it. But I think that's the approach they're going to end up with.
So would you mind if we, didn't approve the removal of these trees yet until we see the,
I don't have a problem with that as long as I'm not suggested more time delay in order to move on with my process. I would think that that could be handled through the building department. And I'm not sure how it would be communicated with the council, you know, but I mean, I'm not just taking trees out because they're in the way.
right?
You know, they cost money to take them down in the first place and they do help sell, you know, so. Anyway, I'm not opposed to it, but I'd like to make sure that it isn't going to delay me in my process. I've already been set back quite a bit from the original time of review.
No, I totally get that, but we could also look at that when we're approving the actual building designs.
Yeah, that goes through architecture review.
Yeah.
Carlos? Yeah.
Yes. But again, I think the key thing here is that there is an opportunity for this canopy here under Z. You know, I think this cluster here, whether it was being subdivided or not, is within the buildable areas.
Totally agree.
And our policy is to encourage access off of the primary collector streets. So that policy is going to require that driveway off into the sides. Now, whether that's the ideal placement, I'm not sure, but you know, it's within that vicinity of where the larger cluster is in here, but I don't see an opportunity here. There's a lot of staging area for the demolition to come off from those, either from the sides or through here, that Z is possible to maintain. And then as you get down here, you know,
Depending on where the sewers actually go.
there's that, and I'm not sure if you look at the arborist report, the significance of that in there, and I'm not to say that I, in any way that I'm an expert in here, but it's in a fair condition. But it's new, it's right next to a new manhole construction.
Yeah, and his notes.
We
it
just
says-
don't know if that manhole's
Mhm.
going there. And I think that's good. That's the key aspect is, once we know.
Yeah.
I mean, if the buildings came in just like this.
Yeah.
Then it
Different
might
conversation.
be, this might be
Mhm.
accurate.
I can pretty much tell you the one on. Excuse me. As you're facing the lot, the one on the right, that's the first house going in, and that is the plan.
That is the plan.
That is the plan.
Okay.
So then, if that's the case, and I understand what you're saying, Carlos, in terms of maybe we can argue on Z and the others are close, but I think we're coming back to this issue where similar to Kirkwood or Webster, we don't have a formula yet, because we're saying we're
Correct.
putting 66% of the trees are getting taken down. How do we,
Well, I would feel
Sort of
more
a-
comfortable seeing a landscape report with the building, plans that come in. Yeah.
to see what they're gonna do to backfill that, is
Yeah.
what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'd like to know. It's not here, and I understand why it's not here yet, but I agree, that's kind of what I want to know, but do we have, say we authorize, maybe we say Z key, fine. But then we're authorizing, when the building report comes, are we at power to say, the landscaping report to say, no, we need to add more trees? We have that authority then?
Yeah, and there's two components here. Here, the preliminary plat process is your opportunity to, to look at the subdivision as a whole. It's not your improvement plan, but if there are any things that you would want staff or the developer to be concerned, to be cognizant of, this is your opportunity to make those. It's not that the plan itself would change, but like there's a concern about the tree preservation or tree Z or the specific area of trees, that we want to make it clear that in the action of this preliminary plat that we're noting this, so it becomes formal. The next step is going to be the final plat. The final plat's not going to show any trees and it's not going to show any homes. It's going to come to the commission and then it goes to the council. Council never sees anything of this. Council's just going to see the legal document that gets recorded. Then through the preliminary plat, when the petitioner comes in for the new homes, we're going to look at the preliminary plat and see what conditions or what, does it somewhat resemble what was provided? Or does it comply with specific conditions that the commission had noted in that process? And then we'll report to you. Now, let's say that it becomes, the commission says that there's a request to do as best as possible to maintain tree Z, or maintain the trees as much as possible during the demolition process so they can be assessed during the petition, the individual home process. Mr. Wilmering is a good developer. He's going to be doing both of these homes, but over time, he may just sell one of these properties or both, and you have another developer that comes in. We're going to go to the preliminary plat and look at, okay, when this came before the commission, what were they looking for? What were the concerns? And make sure that they're imposed on the site plan, and that those that they can't, that we make sure that you're aware and that there's a discussion of why they couldn't be met or so. So it doesn't tie them completely of keeping tree Z in there, that or any of the trees, that we're trying to urge, minimize the tree disruption during the plat process, and that we'll evaluate those during the community design review for each individual home. Mr. Wilmering will be well aware of that, being he's here present, but if he makes a decision that after these get recorded to sell one of those, we're going to go back and make sure that whoever comes in is aware that this is an issue. And they may question that, but that discussion is going to take place here.
I think we're all in agreement. Am I missing anything?
Now, if we had an ordinance in place, or we had specifics in there, then we would say, then it's not even a discussion thing. It's like you shall do. In this case, we have the ability to guide and place in conditions as part as the action in there, and that's what you're doing in there. Now they're beholden to this action, and we expect the developer to comply, but it's different from an ordinance that they shall or must do in there, or they're in violation.
So it's just the gosh, what are the
Conditions.
things? Adjust the conditions to account for them. Okay, good.
One question I guess that I have is there a process that says if you have 30% removal of trees, there has to be a mitigation plan? Is there any thresholds there? And do we have informally or formally requirements with regard to what type of trees and when they need to have a mitigation plan? Or is it just you need to submit a landscape plan and then we all talk about it a couple of times and then we go forward? Is there an actual
Not yet.
standard yet? And are we working on
We're
that?
working towards trying to
Okay,
get to one.
that was the,
And there are some criteria within the code, but our code was written, our subdivision code was written with the intent of somebody coming in and putting a 20 lot subdivision and then dictating what has to be, these street trees and all that
right.
in there. But all of it's long past that. We get a lot of these little splits in there where a lot of that criteria isn't applicable because they're not building streets in there. So again, through the commission, they provide the guidance. We're trying to get that codified so it becomes more consistent and uniform.
So I think we got a solution for that, and I think we've talked about it. Is there any further discussion on the trees issue? Any other? Go ahead.
And again, I'd like to Chairman, if it's okay to bring it back to Mr. Wilmering, just one, if it made sense what we were asking, and then two, what his thoughts were in general.
Sure.
And then the commission can decide what it wants to do, but just to make sure if there was any questions about
What my thoughts are? As far as the tree removal, I'm gonna adhere to whatever we agree to. You know, and how do we get to that agreement? There's nothing set down in writing, you know, so I'm kind of caught in the middle of this right now. You're working on a plan. And I'm open to agreeing to whatever we can come to an agreement on. But I just like to be able to keep this process moving.
I think, Chairman, if I may, just, the key here is that during that demolition, either you would want this area to be your construction area, your access to demolition, or so try to minimize impacting these trees until you come in for that pole.
That shouldn't be a problem. There's plenty of wide open space there.
Yes, that's exactly.
The demo, you can do it anytime. So we're trying to.
Well, the demo guy.
Carlos, I think your mic might be
So
off.
I can guarantee he's not taking down.
Sorry, Daniel. So then that gives you the flexibility when you come in for the new homes, you know, more specifically why they're being impacted or how you run around them. Is that?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing from the
I think
commission?
That's perfect.
That's good.
And
Daniel, something?
Daniel, do you have anything?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, so is there any other questions or comments for the petitioner about this? Okay, seeing none, I think we're good. We're gonna just ask for public comments on this
Okay.
and then have some discussion amongst commission members. Carlos, is there anybody in the audience that wishes to express any public comments related to this item? Go ahead. Come on up and state your name and address.
My name's Ryan Weber, and I have a job that's coming up next, 9600 Ashmont. This tree review thing is new to me. This will be my third house that I'll be building and all of that. It's been a little bit of a confusing process trying to understand what all is expected of us.
Right.
And it's obviously going to hang up my timelines as well. So it would be, prudent for everybody to try to figure out how to get through this. I'm not subdividing a lot. I just have plans that I'm submitting that has an arborist report. So maybe a way to work through this would be when you submit your plans for this review, like this gentleman's going to do, then you have this solution at that time. For the subdivision, as long as it complies with all of Olivet's requirements, there seems to be no reason why you couldn't subdivide and move on with his process.
Yeah, we agree. I
Okay.
mean, I think everybody's in agreement that we'd like to have something, put in place. It's just trying to get there.
Sure.
But I appreciate your comment.
We'll see you shortly.
All right, thank you, thank you. Carlos, is there anybody online that has a public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. That being said, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, do I hear a petition? Or a motion?
Chairman, before any action is taken, you have within your report and also on your dais is the suggested motion that the commission should consider along with the recommended conditions in there. If there are any additional conditions in there or wording on this regarding the trees, let me know, but that's something whoever the motion maker is to ensure that they add that to this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we're gonna look for Sam for that.
Okay, I guess that means I'm making the motion.
Yes. Put you on the spot.
Mr. Chairman, I'd love to make a motion on this, if that's okay.
That would be correct.
Okay. Let's see here. Motion to approve a petition for a two-lot preliminary subdivision plat for 9504 Old Bonham Road as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 5th, 2024. Subject to any staff recommendations or conditions noted herein, as well as the condition that the demolition and construction area is limited as discussed earlier.
I agree. And
Well done.
do we also want to add anything about the requirement of a landscape plan along with?
I think that's.
Oh, that's already in there? Well, good. It's already included. So motion's been made by Sam Wallach. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's seconded by, I'm going with Brian Lowe's.
Absolutely.
Nice. Carlos, will you please call the roll? Or roll call vote?
Approved.
Commissioner Spielglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approve.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgell,
Approved.
and the motion passes 6-0.
Good. Thank you.
Chairman, so so the next step is, again, is getting the final plat, which is kind of a clean version of the preliminary plat that only shows the proposed lot boundaries and then has a lot of legal stuff and signature areas in there. That has to come back to the commission again. And then it goes to the city council that takes 2 readings, and then that authorizes the recording of the plat with the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds in there. In the meantime, I mean, there's nothing that prohibits the demolition of the home, in there, so that's still open. Or the submission of the new homes. The thing is, we couldn't issue you a building permit, of course, until that plat's recorded.
Okay.
All right? Just want to make
Very
sure.
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kevin actually even gives.
Okay, we'll move on to new business. And item A is 9706 Mansfield Drive.
Hey, Carlos, could you put the presentation up by chance? Sorry, thank you. So before you tonight is now 9706 Mansfield Drive. This is a new single-family home. And why is this before the commission? It's before the commission because all new homes require community design review and concept stormwater management review. Within the city of Olivet's lot requirements, site plan is only required if it's a certain size of a lot. So if it meets those regulations, if it's, I think it's over 100 width and 150 depth, it makes it exempt from site plan review. However, the commission can reserve the right to consider site plan review if there are findings that are proposed improvements that would be negative effects surrounding the property. And we were provided a site plan, and we went through the site plan and did review of that. The primary concerns for this house was that the driveway slope is exceeding 8% near the apron, where the and you can see that on the provided site plan when talking through previous properties. That's just been an issue with how the could possibly damage the road within the subdivision, as well as the tree preservation replacement. Prior to this meeting, we just wanted to have that the site plan illustrates the trees and that the identification between the arborist report and the site plan are unified. I think have actually received that information now right before this meeting. So we have that information here. Just a little background. It's that it's part of Oka Estates subdivision. And that the lot dimensions here in front of you are 22,450 square feet. The lot's about 0.5 acres. Lot width is 126 feet and lot depth is 168 feet. These are taken from the site plan that was provided. The county does have different numbers. So we were just asking as part of the, not a drastic difference, but just asking for one of the conditions is just having the parcel area verification for that. We have the correct information on the sizing of that. For setbacks, 50 feet for the front yard, 15.12 feet for the side, which is 12%, and then 33.76 feet for the rear, which is 20% of those numbers. Also, we went through and looked at the community design aspects of this. And from what we could find is that everything is with massing, garages, the materials, stormwater management, the roofs and elevation articulation conform with the residential redevelopment guidelines. We did have concerns pertaining to site grading, which is in response to that driveway percentage, as well as the tree preservation, but now we've gotten that information as well. In front of you, you can see that there's the front elevation as well as that's the rear elevation. Of the home pertaining to stormwater, the stormwater detention pit is located within the front yard and the lower elevations of the lot. This is that only one pit is proposed, but while compliant with code, having all the stormwater directed into one pit may not be ideal if there's a failure, but again, it is permitted under the current regulations. And that the petitioner is proposing to install an NDS flow well gravel installation located in the front, which is that well. And staff asked for clarification on what practice is going to be utilized to redirect the runoff, but I think we did get that information as well on oh, what side is it? I'm so sorry. I think it's on the western. So, oh, Carlos, I think it's actually the opposite side. Was talking about that swale that they put in place. We got the arborist report. We received that on August 26th, and the report is thorough, but then it didn't have that identification, but we have received that identification. So in front of you is how they were identified on the plan. And I'm gonna make sure if there's any more information here pertaining. But yep, this is a new house, and if you have any questions, staff can answer them, as well as the petitioner is present.
What's the color coding of the arborist report? Just so I know.
Sorry.
So the green is gonna attempt to stay or go?
I can tell you right.
Green's gotta go.
Let's go.
That's gonna stay or go?
Gotta go.
These are gotta go.
Which ones are staying?
Says T1, T2, T6, T9, and T12 are listed as to be preserved.
These are.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so red is staying.
Was that the opposite?
I think it's
last
the
time?
opposite last time.
Yeah, okay.
The report also that was provides information pertaining to the restoration and the removal plans. And then provided information on mitigation strategies that can be used, as well as the compliance review.
Do you know why T10 is slated to be removed? Is it listed on the report?
That's because they're building a retaining wall right there on top of it.
Okay, so it's.
And that's the approximate location, trying to impose it on the site plan. The arborist report identified it with pictures and gave a general description of where the location is.
Mhm.
So we tried to go back to the site plan, find those trees based on that description, and this was the best that we can do. So when you get to T11 and T10, there is a proposed retaining walls that run back here, but then there's a big tree area, so you can't really see where exactly that tree
Yeah.
falls in. But there is a lot of brush, and again, I emphasize that brush is a lot of honeysuckle and thicket that is back there.
Yeah, makes sense.
And just to clarify, when I did say the portion of the report that we needed that information about how that stormwater was directed, we actually did get that information, and the petition noted that they proposed installing a swale that would run along that side of the property line, which is in the site plan on the left.
Where T12 is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I have a general question, and this is just a newbie question. In reading our general plan, there's a particular, it seems like emphasis on building new buildings, fitting within the context of their surroundings. And we're seeing this all over St. Louis and in Olivet in particular, where we're tearing down these single-story ranch houses to build two-story houses. And I'm wondering how we comply with the general plan that says you need to take into that context so that things don't look out of place, taking down a house that looks like the one that exists at 9706 versus a house that was going to look more like 9714. And so I'm curious what acrobatic moves we have to make to say that's okay under the general plan. In addition, being maybe one of the oldest people here, our general plan also emphasizes, aging in place. And I can tell you that more and more baby boomers who are retiring are wanting single-story homes, not two-story homes. And so it's just a question more is how do we go about approving a two-story house in a subdivision full of one-story ranches?
I would say that it's not in the subdivision full of
Yeah.
one-story ranches, because in the site plan on the last page,
Okay.
on the screen, it shows the neighboring homes and which ones in their front elevation.
And my question
Yeah.
isn't really
Oh,
that
general.
specific
I
to
understand.
this, but the house next to it is definitely a ranch, and there, where those newer houses were probably ranches.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
And so we're just seeing that all over, these big houses going in on these big lots that had single story ranches on them, and they stand out pretty significantly. And I'm trying to understand how this fits with what we're saying in our general plan about consistency and consideration of the existing, you know,
It's tough, but in a neighborhood like this that's experiencing, significant turnover like this is, I think, the remaining houses are the ones that
Now stick out.
Stick out before, yeah, and those houses, are small, and
just what baby boomers want.
but in this particular one, being on a top of a high hill
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily be a good house for somebody who's elderly or anything like that.
It was just a more of a
I
commentary.
think if
than-
I can, and I
Yeah.
think it's important, and I appreciate the question being asked. And this has been for me, the 22-year struggle, and for you even longer than that. You're right. In our old ordinances, when I came here, which were adopted in 1995, they use language in there that was so vague and applied inconsistently in there. And this commission went through probably a 3-year process to modify the code and develop guidelines. And that those guidelines have been modified since then to provide not just the commission, but also developers, some guidance of what these terms mean and what are the city's expectations in that process. And again, these are just general guidelines, and in no way did the council intend that these would become standards or regulations. The council wanted to encourage a variety of design, architectural design, ornamental design, call it what you want, in there. We also recognize, I mean, by code, you can't build this anymore. That house is not going to look like that under the current code requirements. So it was taking, balancing these aspects in there, and through the guidelines, we identified specific principles, architectural principles, to help balance the existing housing stock, the environment, and how to be, compatible with the surroundings in there. And those are, and pretty much Jack notes it in here, these are the staff analysis of those principles and our professional recommendation, our professional interpretation to the council, but to the commission. But in no way do we expect that the commission is going to just take our word for it. We expect the commission to push us and give us feedback on these, because that feedback, then we go back to the developer and give them some more guidance in there. And these things kind of, they're like the old equalizers in a stereo bar system. Emphasis is here on massing at one point, then it was on top of the foundation, then it was on materials, and then, and it changed on by, neighborhood by neighborhood by neighborhood. But in those, as we review these, and again, this is from planners trying to give the commission some architectural guidance. And there we look at, that this house is not this house here, where there is no acknowledgement of what was next door. I don't know which one came first, but that this house here acknowledged that there's a step down approach to the adjacent house that is a lot shallow in width, to avoid overshadowing or overburdening, or they're sticking out like a sore thumb type of aspect. They did the same thing on the other side, and they provided the slope conditions here. They provided the brick. Nobody does a full brick house unless you're going to be on Arbor Road or Heather Hill Lane. And the reason they do those is because that is a different systems of value and pricing compared to a lot of our other neighborhoods. We also work with the trustees, especially in Oak Estates, have been very active in there and supportive of redevelopments, and both the gentlemen that are here know the trustee, and they follow through on there. But again, we go by these principles that we'd identified. So we look at the massing, because we don't want a box. in there, and we don't want something simple, but we know the reality of the market, both in terms of design, construction, and materials, that things are gonna get standardized. We look at garages, we encourage side and rear entry garages, but yet we want more green space. And we don't encourage front entry garages. Well, we should be encouraging front entry garages. But if you do a front entry garage, the guidelines say step it back, don't have it in front of your house, type of thing. We look at the materials. Our materials have improved over time. You see less vinyl, you see a lot of, again, the market's changed that. You see a lot of more hardy boards and things like that. But you still see some masonry. We look at the roofs. We know roofs are different, but we always look at, there's a principal roof and a secondary roof that projects out of that principal roof. We look at that principal roof and we have some regulations that it shouldn't exceed a specific slope. So it doesn't, again, overtower the adjacent properties. We look at elevation, articulation. That's always subjective. I believe this is okay. Somebody may say, whoa, that's a lot of siding, but that happens. And I think functionally, there is no need to have any articulation in an area that's probably the back end of a garage. And there's not a need to put a window just because we want a window there, has no function in there. And then we look at the top of foundation, because we were having properties that would mound themselves from their neighbors in there, and this was a way to encourage them. And then our more recent updates is we applied these design principles to garages and accessory structures, to upper level additions and all that. And then we've added the stormwater and tree preservation in there, all with the hope and intent that we're guiding the developers and the petitioners to be more consistent with the city's values and policies. Then there are our values, our personal values. That's why we have a commission of 7. Each one of you has a different perspective and ideology in terms of what is good architecture, what is a good home, what is a good development in there. And my role is to help harness a consensus. I don't expect unanimous votes, and I expect that there will be differences in opinions, and I think that is healthy and that is good in there. And then I expect, the commission to challenge myself and my staff on these things, because that makes us better planners too in there, and that's better for our community as a whole in there. But then it goes all to that. I think when you had noted about the aging in place, the maintaining of the original architecture or some of the appearance of those neighborhoods, I always struggle because I have personal values. I know the city's policies, and then I sure know, of course, what our regulations are. And that spectrum is pretty wide, and we try to balance those as best as I can. I want to know your values, because that helps us prepare our policies and procedures, and ultimately those lead to those regulations. So I expect, as we have new commission members or commission members that have, went out and seen different neighborhoods and or experience other places, to bring those in here and help us to get those results. So, I think your comments were wonderful in there, and things we need to hear to be able to ensure that we're justifying what we're bringing back to the commission, and that the commission feels good on their actions that they're taking. And coming from that comprehensive plan, that was a 2024 update. We adopted it in February. And it is going to be a 20-year plan. And I think some of those, some of those values that our community has indicated that they want to see moved up in that process, they will, but I don't think that they're going to happen next year, type of thing. And we'll have a developer in a while. His development is going to has elevators. He's planning for that demographic. And there, so all those things are occurring. They may not be codified yet, but I think they're good comments that you brought in. And I just wanted to note
Great.
that. I
It's
think
very thorough. Donald. So thank you. Any other discussion with Jack or with Carlos? The only thing I have is, did you get neighborhood association? Did they approve it?
Yeah, Mr. Ferguson, who's also our treasurer, who's the subdivision trustee, so he's aware of the.
Perfect.
So.
Perfect. Good, good.
Also just wanted to note that mailings were sent out for the property, so everyone was notified about it. And Commissioner Powell, I'm sorry, I misinterpreted your question earlier, but thank you.
Good, fantastic. So at
What-
this point,
One last thing, and I'm sorry to extend it, but there are some things that I think it's always important for the commission to be aware of, and these are part of your drawings and the diagrams that are submitted. I think sometimes there are some that, really give you a good indication, but this is a lot, the street is here, and you can see how the existing grade was right here. So you do have, and you saw our comment about the slope of the driveway. We try to minimize the slope of the driveway as you approach the street to no more than 8%. The reason we do that is on Arbor and Radford where the cars come down, hit the asphalt. Yeah. So it's not that you can't have more than 8%, but instead of having it up on the apron, we want it further in. That way they don't damage the public street in the process. You also see the two retaining walls that the petitioner's putting in there too, because of the height of that back, I mean, there is a drop of probably 20 feet from the back end of the neighbor to the street up in the front in there. It is an interesting lot. And the nice thing about it is because of that slope, all those trees are right here, so that's not being disturbed. When you look at the trees that are in that cycle and what the petitioner has, the tree report has indicated, I always get concerned because let's say T2 here, it's right under there's a gas line right under the root system. The petitioner is not going to be allowed to install the gas line. That's going to be Missouri American Water, or excuse me, Spire. And and while we require Spire to notify the city about that connection, Spire is independent. And wherever they decide the gas line is going to go, the gas line is going to go, and it doesn't matter what's there. The whole intent was that this probably wasn't the best placement for the tree. There are other utilities, and you can see here, they're showing that the gas will be here, water will be here. At the end of the day, Spire is going to tell them where the gas is going to be for the most part. And if it does align there, or even if Spire ever has to do improvements to the gas line, they're digging right under that tree. We'd like to see it preserved as much as possible, and if not, that after construction it gets replaced. T1 has a possibility in there along with T6 and T8 in here, but I mean, you really start limiting the staging area for construction, and in this case, and sometimes there's a lot of space, but in this case, there's not a lot of space because of this back, and this slope is pushing everything forward in there. So, as things come in, you can see the water main, the water lines, when they drop off the trusses, when they bring in the trucks and the equipment, this area is going to be difficult to try to maintain. We'd like to see you try to preserve, 1, 2, 6, and 8 as much as possible. If they need to be removed, I think then that's where the commission should require some type of landscape plan come back in there. We've had other developers that have indicated that typically it's the client that would want to do the landscape plan. Other developers that, like, if they build it and it's not sold yet, then they'll do the landscaping in there. But we would work with you to find where that's going to happen and something come into place to replace. So.
Very good. Okay, I think now if you could come up and talk about your petition, kind of address some of the issues that were brought up.
Max.
Ryan Weber again for 9706 Mansfield. I guess to start with the design of the house, it's, I guess what in St. Louis we call a story and a half, where there's a main level master. I think that's pretty desirable for most people in the area, and that's, I think, what most builders try to do. Obviously the lot and the market kind of dictate that. So this lot allowed us to do a story and a half, a main level master. So there are bedrooms upstairs, but they're not the primary bedrooms. So it'd be perfect for grandkids and all that kind of stuff. What else did you have? The trees, with the arborist report, the arborist got this over to us, and then we just forwarded it to Carlos, but Carlos did this work himself, labeling on the map, and he pretty much nailed it. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. That was very helpful. Jack, thank
Yeah.
you. Whoever did it, it's good.
Definitely Jack.
What else did you have? Oh, the
Uh,
slope of the driveway.
Driveway.
I talked with the engineer. I don't think we have a problem adjusting the apron.
Good.
If we do, we'll talk to Carlos about it and see what we need to do to make changes.
Good, good.
I have a question about that. So the existing house is on 672 and the new footprint's on 674. Why'd you guys raise it up 2 feet?
I have to talk to the engineer about that. I'm not sure.
Cause
Where-
that would
can you-
solve that.
It might,
It would make
might.
the driveway a lot better
It
if you went
might.
back to the existing foundation height.
I think if you look at the width of the existing house
Mhm.
and then the back of the proposed house is gonna be further back in the lot that has a steep slope.
Mhm.
So he's brought the front of the house up so that the back of the house isn't sunk down. And so there's probably something to do with that.
I think if we could verify that.
Yeah, and we can get the engineer to verify. all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and just see if there's a possibility,
Yep.
you know, to bring it, you know, down.
Just a little bit down, then that would help with the other part of it.
Sure,
that we're
as long
talking
as our first floor isn't going
Right,
below
isn't
grade.
sunken in there,
Yeah,
right, exactly.
And I think you gotta
Yeah.
be careful too about the drainage in the back, because if
Yeah.
I remember in the back, they had some,
Well, they're gonna have a huge thing because they're cutting it out right now.
right.
I mean, that's what those retaining walls are doing. They're cutting out that backyard.
Mhm.
We're just asking for it to be pushed just a little bit this way.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense.
Sure.
And they're just, so it's visible, is that back here, you can see the existing grade, you know, so the old house was narrow and was kind of laid out right here in there, but there's kind of like the hump. So if you add the 2 feet for the new house here to get it, you know, a typical foundation, you're up there, especially because what happens here, what was here, and now needs to be done to level out to put the house. That's, you know, minimizing the amount of cutting back here as possible.
But it may not need
It's
to
a,
be
it's a
2 feet.
unique lot and
Yeah.
it's not easy. I'm glad they're doing the retaining wall because we've had some others that just sloped it. And then we had trouble with just the velocity of water and erosion.
So any other questions for the petitioner? Daniel, any questions?
Nope, nope, all good here.
Okay, good, good. Thank you, sir. We'll
Thank
just
you.
take some public comments if we have any. Any public comments in the audience? Seeing none, Carlos, we check online.
Nobody online.
All right, good, good. Do I hear a motion? Or any further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I'd like to make a motion if I could.
Fantastic.
Okay. Motion to authorize the approval of the petition for community design and concept stormwater management review for a new single-family home at 9706 Mansfield Drive as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 5th, 2024, subject to any staff conditions noted therein.
Second.
Motion's been made by Sam Wallach and seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Did we have to add anything to this based on what we discussed?
No, it has
Good,
everything.
Very good. Carlos, will you please call?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgel.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously 6-0.
Thank you very much. All right. Good discussion on that item. We will now move on to item B, which is Olivet City Center Townhouses, Plat 1, Building 6 and 7. Jack, are you handling this?
All right, final condominium, this is the final condominium plat. Plat number 1 of the Olivet City Center Townhomes. The development was introduced on January 20th of 2022 and forwarded to the council on March 17th of 2022. The preliminary development plan was approved under ordinance number 2744 on April 26th of 2022. And the development will include 2 private streets. So why is this before the commission? The condominium plat is just the form of a final subdivision plat as regulated under the chapter 405 subdivision regulations, and this will be a forwarded recommendation to the council. Just for some other information is that we have to go on, that they have to go under, they undergo preliminary subdivision review, and the concept master plan approved under ordinance 2744. The master plan was officially a preliminary subdivision plat before it became a final condominium plat. And then just a little note is that in the final subdivision plat process, the commission and the city council is acting as a legal document that is recorded with the St. Louis County Recorder of Deeds. And the intent of the final subdivision process is not to rehash whether the plat conforms with the city's codes, regulations, and comprehensive plan. The decision discussion occurs during the preliminary subdivision plat process. So before you today, you'll have a staff report, the application, the final condominium plat, the packet of bylaws, covenants, and restrictions, and then the articles of incorporation. Just a little bit more information on the subdivision plat condominium plat is that it'll have those two private streets, which will be Ollie Way and Noah Lane, and these roads will remain private and never be accepted to maintenance from the city of Olivet. The petition complies with the motion and recommendations of the commission, what they had previously motioned and recommended, and that in front of you that the plat one consists of 8 units termed as lots 26 through 33 with a common parcel known as plat one. The boundaries of plat one consist of 0.868 acres with the boundaries within there 22,584 square feet common area, which includes the streets and the parking, as well as those units identified. And you'll have all of that information also within the report. And then the conditions of approval that staff recommends is that the plat illustrates the request for the 24-foot wide access easement along Ollie Way, is that the city attorney will review those bylaws, and then the following comments shall be included within the written attachments, which is focusing on the International Fire Code and how that fire development or department and the fire marshal will be getting involved within that process.
Good.
Again, Chairman, I'll note, so, given our new members, so, we did, 2 years ago approve a development for across the street. It's a townhouse development consisting of, I believe it's 32, townhouses. I may be off on the number here, but, the development that was approved by this, recommended by this commission and approved by the council, this is the concept plan that we have in place. The development itself is going to kind of mimic these townhouses that you see here. This would be Dealman Road. This is the Dealman Road sidewalk. And then these are the side, kind of front elevations of the side of the end units facing Dealman. There's a retaining wall that runs along there and some step ups in there. The city required across that this road be an opportunity to extend a cross access easement if properties on the western side ever redeveloped, that we could have a corridor connection in there. And also even if they don't develop, to provide an opportunity for the subdivision here to have a second outlet. Right now the only outlet is on Olive Road for the 23 homes, Olive Boulevard.
Yeah. Makes sense.
In there. So and then the next step is, of course, is the actual condominium plat, which is the legal instrument in their condominium plat. We haven't seen one of these. I think it was 1989 was the last one I saw in ordinance, and that was Bonham Village. In there, they never did go condo; they stayed as apartments in there. But it identifies each owner will have the ownership of actual space, but then partial ownership to everything else around them in there. So that's how they're set up. That's a legal document that would be before you, which includes the bylaws, the articles of incorporation, and the covenants in that place. So this is more the legal document, the design and the construction and the layout that was part of the adopted concept plan that we saw back in 2022.
Good.
I'd like to note that mailings were also sent out, so people around the properties were notified about the final condominium plat.
Great. Thank you, Jack. Appreciate it. Any discussion? I don't have any.
Carlos, I'm sorry.
Go
The
ahead.
bylaws are more just to, let us know and see them, but we're not approving those specifically, right?
Correct.
I didn't,
Well,
I
it-
didn't read through them in
The,
detail. so that's what I'm
the
saying.
commission and ultimately the council has authority that if they want to ensure that something is
audit them,
included
edit them.
or
Okay.
placed in there.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're typically a template in there. In our case, we're using it as an opportunity through for a fire marshal that we would want to make sure, like if someone buys in there, that there are required testing because these units will be sprinklered and there are required annual testing that has occurred to those units. We want to make sure that they are aware and that they're required to submit those test results annually to the fire
Well-
marshal currently and whoever's in that.
And I was
place.
thinking more about like how they're gonna elect the board and how they're gonna.
Yeah,
do
it
their
gets
homework,
into
so
that detail too.
That's, okay,
Mhm.
all right. We're saying my.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to the city attorney.
Can you just clarify? So I see that there's the 4 that are given the alleyway drive address, and then Noah Lane, isn't that an alley? Or is that Noah Lane in between?
I'm gonna go back one bit here.
Okay,
So yeah, so these and these 4 units here that are gonna be at the far north end will be addressed off the Noah Lane Street. And that's this one here. And these units on the either side of the Ollie Lane will be addressed off of Ollie, but then everything else is based on Noah.
okay. And then the front on those Noah Lane properties, where is the front of those properties? Are they facing north
Good
or are they facing south?
The in units will be facing east and west.
Okay,
And then the interior units will be facing, in this case, these will be facing south, these would be facing north.
okay. So but there's not going to be any kind of street that people will see the fronts of the houses on Noah Lane.
On this end here?
Yes.
That will be, yeah, it's kind of like a private residential thoroughfare that runs from here to here.
No, what I'm asking is on the properties, not the end, but the 2 in the middle, I guess. Their fronts are going to face north, but there's not a street north. So no one's really going to see the fronts of those.
These here,
properties.
okay, correct.
Okay.
Well, the neighbors
Well, yeah,
back there.
but it isn't there the wall and,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I was just curious because of Noah Lane is at the top and I'm like, is this an alley? What is this exactly?
It
in
and it
between.
is, it's more of the more urbanist type of
Mhm.
narrow street
Mhm.
that functions as both.
Okay.
It gives it a little bit more flexibility. That's a different question, because that was about fire access, and so it meets the minimum requirement in there. So it was our attempt of doing a little bit more of a compact home development, a little bit urbanistic.
I kind of forgot. I remember that access road being more on the north side. When did that change?
There was 2 things, St. Louis County, and that came back to the commission
Yeah,
shortly after the ordinance approval, and I had to go back to the council, so we did bring that. So the original diagram had a development that kind of went and looped around,
yeah.
and then you had the units kind of similar in there. We actually had more units.
Right.
County was adamant that they would only have one access point, and also where that access point would have to be, and it was right here. So and we had this discussion of trying to get the developer to get these things resolved with county. Once county made that decision, then they had to remodify this. Now, this worked here perfectly for the fire department. You can get the biggest apparatuses in and out because there was one way in, one way out in there. This revised development, what you now see, bear with me here, doesn't. And in exchange, to assist the developer, we did some modifications to the code in exchange for some returns from the developer. In this case, those units are all sprinklered. If those units were not sprinklered, the fire apparatuses would not work, and we would be back to the drawing board for a new development. Oh,
Please turn on your microphone. And
Doug Cohen, Douglas Properties, 1025 McKnight Road. To kind of wrap a bow around it, I think Carlos is of course right, but the reason the county wanted it there is because they have a rule, you have to look so many feet without hindrance. And we were surprised that they allowed it here because we wanted to have it mimic what you guys have here. But for some reason, which makes no sense, it worked for the here, but doesn't work there because of stupidity somewhere. But I'm used to that in this business. So it didn't make sense, but that's what we were forced with. They were in control.
Appreciate the history lesson.
Okay.
Any other further discussion or items that we need to address?
And this is more or less the lingo instrument for the condo plat. Honestly, again, I haven't done one of these since being in Creve Coeur. Olivet hasn't seen one since 1989. It's good to see them back in the market in there, and I commend the developer for taking the risk on these, because I think they are, you know, as a planner, you know, the type of you know, developments you want to kind of encourage and capitalize on the minimal availability of land out there. This is one way to do it. And there's some.
Yeah.
Castlegate's a little bit different because they have their own yards, but they go beyond that.
Okay, so I don't know if we need any further discussion at this point in time, and I don't know if we need Doug, unless you want to say something. You're good. So do we have any, I don't see any public out here. So do we have anybody online?
Nobody is online, sir.
Yep. All right, so that's now I'll ask, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead, Brian.
Motion to approve petition for a condominium plat entitled Olivet City Town Center Townhomes Plot 1 as presented in the memorandum from the Department of Planning and Community Development dated September 5th, 2024, subject to any staff recommendations or conditions noted therein.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis. Do I hear a second?
Second.
And seconded by Tim Spiegelglass. Carlos, you please call the vote.
Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell, Commissioner Lewis,
Approved.
and Commissioner Jurgel.
Approved.
And the motion passes 6-0 unanimously. Hey,
Thank you.
Mr. Cohen, before heading out, if you don't mind, one more thing. And Chairman, if I can,
Yeah.
because we do provide the commission with updates of all the projects going on in there. And I thought, since Mr. Cohen is here, hate to put you on the spot, but it's a good opportunity because, you know, this development has had its ups and downs. I mean, to be all honest.
Sure.
And it's required quite a bit of teamwork in the process, and Doug does a good job in terms of trying to coordinate. But can you give them, at least the
Yeah.
commission, some idea and
Sure.
what you're seeing out
You
in the
put up
market?
the rendering back up again, that might help. Yeah, so, actually, crossing our fingers, next week we start footings and foundations of the 7 building that's furthest to the north. And then as soon as that is done, then we immediately start construction, hard construction for pending permits. The rear unit of building 7 is the only one that's pre-sold. This kind of a project is such that you really have to have a display. These range start at 700 up to 800. The market that we are using as an example, or the development we're using as an example, is the one in Brentwood by Whole Foods up on the hill that way, which is a national builder. And it's the finishes are far inferior of what we're planning here, and they're selling for the middle 7s. So based on the location, the school district, we have 100% confidence that once the model is done, I'm pretty sure they'll fall like dominoes. And the status of the banking situation is as soon as, so both foundations will start right away, and framing completion of building 7 is all ready to go. And then as soon as the second sale, it's basically 2 sales, 2 contracts to keep the momentum going that the bank is allowing. And so, you know, you just never know how long these things will take, but, you know, we're all 100% confident that it's going to be a winner.
Okay, good.
So spread the word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Anything else?
No.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks,
Appreciate it, sir.
All right, good, good, good update on that too. I guess we'll move on to other business, and I see meeting minutes for August 1st, 2024.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Sam.
I'd like to acknowledge receipt of the meeting minutes for August 1st, 2024.
So acknowledged. All right, we'll move on then to election of officers. Drum roll. Um, one thing I'd just like to say, I would be happy if anybody wanted to take over, as chairman. And I would still be staying, I have no plans to, to step down or anything like that. But I think it's sometimes good to get fresh blood, new opinions out there or, new leadership. So, and I also just want to make sure if anyone did have an interest, that you do consider, Brian. Now Laura's not here. Has she ever expressed any interest? What? Yeah. Right, right. So I'm just gonna throw that out there, to you guys. I would be very happy with anybody on this commission taking over, and I would be happy to help you through, different items, if anybody would be interested in doing this. All right. Going once.
Great job.
I think Brian did a great job last week.
Everybody needs to speak into their microphone though, so that Daniel can hear you.
Nah, Daniel does. Daniel wants it, is what.
Daniel,
You're the goat, Rob.
Mute, so it's what I gathered there.
Did he say yes?
Put
I thought I heard a yeah.
him on mute.
All right, well, I did want to, at least offer.
Do we have to nominate Carlos?
There would be a motion, a second, and a vote of the commission.
Okay. Do we do it by office, by
Yes.
roll? Okay. Could I make a motion?
You can make a motion, Brian.
I'll make a motion to elect Robert Trigal as chairman, or re-elect, I guess, as chairman.
Second.
Motion's been made by Brian Lewis and seconded by Sam Waller. Carlos, you please call the vote.
All right, Jim, on that motion. Commissioner Wallach,
Approved.
Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell,
Approved.
Commissioner Lewis.
Approved.
The motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Oh. I'm locked in. But it's only 1 year, right? We do this every year?
That is correct, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, good. You guys will get your.
Unless you get impeached.
And did you
Yeah.
say Laura has expressed an
No,
interest?
no,
Oh,
I
okay.
have not talked to her, but she did assist us in the process.
I just didn't want to make sure we weren't skipping over her.
So now we're talking about vice chairman.
That is correct.
There's plenty of good, people, for this. I think Brian did a great job. So, this last time. So I would like to nominate, make a motion to nominate Brian Lewis.
Second.
Motion's been made motion's been made by myself and seconded by Sam Wallach. Are there any other, any other motions on the table? Seeing none, Carlos, will you please call the vote?
Approved.
Then
Approved again.
approved by Commissioner Wallach, Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell,
Approved.
Commissioner Jurgel.
Approved.
The motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Okay, now the new role, I should say, and this is secretary. So this is one that I see a motion. This is, we do need to get more people active and involved, on this, because sometimes it does, there's times where both the chairman or the vice chairman won't be available, and it doesn't happen very often, What's that?
And they call.
And where they call roll, it's yeah, exactly. So, is there anybody who's interested in being the secretary?
I'll throw my hat in the ring.
I would
Nobody
like to
else
make a
is
motion to
interested.
nominate
Okay.
Sam Wallach to be secretary?
Second,
Are there any other motions? Daniel, would you be of interest to running against Sam?
I don't know. I think Sam's got this one.
All right. Carlos, you please call the vote.
All right, Commissioner Spiegelglass,
Approved.
Commissioner Rosenberg,
Approved.
Commissioner Powell,
Approve.
Commissioner Lewis,
approved.
Commissioner Jurgel.
Approved.
The motion passes 5-0 with one abstention. So the Commissioner Jurgel is, continues as chairman, Commissioner Loving, Commissioner Lewis, sorry, sir, continues as vice chairman, and Commissioner Wallach will serve as secretary. Appreciate it,
Fantastic.
gentlemen.
That, I'm sure glad it was peaceful. Years ago, it was. Really? Really? Okay, so we'll move on to other business and item A, or no, I'm sorry, item C, reports. Carlos.
Chairman, just a couple of things. We have a list of news and events going on in the city, and I'll get back to that. But a quick overview of some of the development activity that's going on. Appreciate Mr. Cohen providing us some feedback on his development. And again, I hope by next week we're doing the footings, and by the end of the month, you'll see some framing going on that site. In there regarding Olive Crossing. This is the original Olive Crossing, the master plan development that we have in place. Construction has started on the Audi. As you can see here, we kind of emphasize on our streetscape and our distance from Olive Boulevard and the pedestrian connectivity that goes in place in there. And that's what distinguishes our development from our neighbor next door in there. Again, you can do boxes really quickly. But that was not what our goal was. Our goal was to create a community of mixed-use development in an urban type of setting and capitalize on the 14 acres assembly that we have, because we don't have 14 acres anywhere else. And there, the retail building, that's going to be right here. Again, the ramps to I-170 are here. They did do a little field work and all that, and then things have kind of been held out. I know they're in discussions of getting an anchor tenant on this end, which would be on this end over here in there. And the baguette is still committed to the site. I believe Smoothie King maybe too in there, but we're waiting for that to go full throttle in there. But Audi is coming along great. Those guys are really moving. It's been pretty impressive to see them in there. The sign package came in this week. Mr. Carlson was going through that review, and it looks like they've already put the covered rooftop on that space, and we're hoping for an early winter opening in 2025. So we're excited about that.
Yeah.
It's been impressive.
So just a quick comment. So the difference between the pictures up top there, not the drawings, obviously, but and the one below it were only like 3 days.
Wow.
I want to maybe even less.
They're not messing around.
It's good.
Just down the block from that on the north side of town, behind Chevy's, is the Irvington Place Apartments. That is a 208 unit apartment complex that's been approved by the city. The trailer has arrived, and that's what I'm showing you here. In there, they expect to start construction October 1st. That we'll see dirt moving on that site ground, and then this is just a visual of what's been approved and the layout here in the Hilltop neighborhood. Then is the Centennial Greenway. That Greenway connection will be here from Dealman Road all the way to Warson Park in our community center at Five Oaks in there, and pretty much everything's been paved. It is a really nice trail system and in place. And if you never been back here in Indian Meadows and all that, it is quite the treat, and it's worthwhile. It's very tranquil back there, and the amount of vegetation and
Yeah.
plant and animal life back there is pretty impressive.
The amount of mature trees just in the area make it a fairly nice walk almost no matter what temperature it is. especially if you walk east to west. You really start off and you're in the park and you're surrounded by trees still, and they haven't even done the plantings yet. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive. And like Carlos said, very tranquil. You can see the headwaters of, the River de Pere. And I mean, if for nothing other than that, it's kind of cool. It wasn't at one, before they had finished it, or not finished, but before they had finished paving, it was a little bit more dangerous, but now they're saying it's okay to go in.
So it's open for us to walk.
Oh, we are recording. I'm not giving permission to anybody on a recording.
Have you started walking to work yet?
I'm very close. to
All
it.
right. Fair enough.
Soon.
One of the things I'll note, advocating again for our 2024 comprehensive plan update and the city's shift in valuing, the preservation and protection of the environmental, our environment, sustainability and trees. And it's, for me, it's, the public side has to take that first step before it becomes like everybody else does it on the private end, in there, because we're trying to be the leader or showing the reason. So I believe I can't recall, and I know these numbers are off. Is it 300 trees are to be planted along this trailway system? Correct.
Wow.
And-
Largely natives,
Mhm.
Oh, that's great.
although not 100%, but largely native.
Next, Great Heart Brewery and Domo right now. So not much of the brewery equipment has come in. I really feel for Mr. Valentine. I know he's anxious, but that's part of the supply chain issues and the delays in there. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but ultimately this room would have been filled with all the equipment in there. But their finishes are coming along. They're working on the back end in there, and still hoping that we can have a December opening.
Where
in
is
there.
this?
This is going to be in the Plant Haven.
Oh, okay. That's what I saw.
Commercial development, yes. So that will be where the Great Heart Brewery, and then Domo, which is at the Easy Storage on one of the retailers at the lower level of Easy Storage. They're working on their tenant finishes. I'm not going to give a specific date, but I think under the contract, they have to turn this over to the tenant by mid-October. So what I didn't get is whether they need to open by mid-October or just have it set. So it's exciting because this could be up and running by late October or November.
Just in time for the turkey trot.
And then 9515 Dealman Road subdivision, which is the address off of Dealman Road, but these are the homes that will be developed on the White Rose side. In there, a lot of the tree clearing has happened already. And again, we're cognizant about the impact to the environment, sustainability and all that. But in discussions with the developer, this was one of our first attempts to work and try to encourage them to do more than just fill up a landfill. So the wood chips are going to a landscaper in there for reuse. And a lot of the logs and trees that were cut are going to some firm in Chesterfield, but they'll be used for firewood and all that. But we did have while there's no code to make them do it, we had a discussion for them to be active and do something positive with the clear cutting that's going on in place in there.
And there were some significant grading issues, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it is interesting the site and they brought in some fill too in there. So. And that's all I had. I just wanted to bring the commission up to date on those. And again, there's a schedule of different events with next week, of course, with Coffee with the Mayor being one of the bigger ones, but I'll let the mayor talk about that.
Carlos, before we go on to the next, I was asked by an Olivet resident about something that was going on in the commercial or the industrial park. So apparently, like one of the buildings was being gutted.
It may be the former Enterprise building,
Do the additional right when you turn it into
Off of Indian Meadows.
I believe that's.
That's
the-
Carrollton Bank. That will be the new administrative headquarters for Carrollton Bank.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
that did come to the commission. I'm gonna say last fall. And they were here for that. So
Okay, so
um,
it's just now getting started.
yeah, I mean, and it's, it's full construction right now. So
Okay.
just to keep you up to pace, of course, Enterprise fleet was headquartered here when Enterprise consolidated and changed their name and all that, the facilities and the workers there. There was over 800 employees there. At the last employee report that was during the pandemic, I think they said they had like 1,200 employees. It's kind of hard to visually see that they were all there at that one time in there, but they were a significant sales tax contributor in there. So it was a big loss for the city when they had to consolidate in there. But it left a big void, and this is not a market right now to have these type of spaces out there. We were fortunate, and a subsidiary of the Emerson Company is now taking that space. Fisher Rosemont. I
Fisher
think it-
Rosemont. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
In there, so they will have engineering, they'll have manufacturing, and they do a lot of electronic type parts that deal with a lot with network gear, is my understanding in there. So we're looking forward for them to come in there. That was in the Business Journal. They have secured the site in there, so they hope to be providing plans I think by early January for us. In there, there's no outside modifications, so nothing, at least that I know yet, that would be coming to the commission. But that's a big save for one of these big sites out there.
Absolutely. That's great. Missy?
All right, there's not really much more to report that Carlos hasn't covered. However, for the coffee for the mayor, it will be St. Louis County Board of Elections Director. However, we'll have conversations with regards to the upcoming elections. What are the rules in Missouri? When can you start voting in absentee? Who can? How can you? The ballot issue that the citizens of Olivet have had asked, and the council sent on to the Board of Elections with regard to the marijuana dispensaries, a little discussion about that. So hopefully it'll be a good conversation, and it'll be informative, and people will get ready to get out and vote.
Okay.
Beyond that, it's a great time here. The weather is changing. Things are happening. Appreciate y'all being here. And that's pretty much it.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything? Yeah.
Commission member. So we did put on the dais copies of the 2024 comprehensive plan update in there. These are spiral bound, and these are our official copies. I would like to get them back at the end of the meeting, but you guys haven't had a chance to see the whole thing outside of a PDF. But eventually we would like to bring these, to the commission during the meetings. I would say, to take them this round, but and then at our meeting on September 19th, make sure to bring them back, in there. Budget wise, I only get to print so many hard copies, so I don't want to lose them. But I think we should always have them in place in there. It's easier for us to put them out for you. But you guys can decide or give us some direction on that. And I don't need the answer now. I think you haven't seen it for quite some time. Good time to take it home and take a look at it. Yeah.
You're giving us homework, aren't you?
No, this is the adopted plan. We just kind of spiraled it for everybody.
I assume you have it all memorized already, so.
Yeah. So. Oh, yeah.
Sam says he has it memorized
All right.
already.
And then Jack's built up some confidence in his year. He's
So,
completed his year now.
I'm gonna,
Get rid of it.
yeah, I'm gonna give the commission homework as well. Because we don't have to have this discussion right now. But if like in your packet, for instance, the one for the final condominium plat, we printed all of those bylaws, which is 71 pages to print. So we're trying to see, at the end of these meetings, sometimes the packets don't go home and stay here, which is totally fine. But we just want to make sure, like, maybe if there's a different way to, we're all about trees here,
Exactly.
preserve the paper and see if there's a way that we can do packets. Whatever's the easiest for you, and that you guys would, if the way that we're doing it's great, then we can keep doing it. But it's just like, seems a lot, very wasteful.
Is there, I totally agree. It's a lot of printout and a lot of, effort. I'm wondering, I don't know if the city has iPads that maybe we could use and scroll through. We could bring personal laptops or personal iPads and possibly look through PDFs if we got booklets for it. Or we can make it optional. If someone wants to print out, they can not print out. I'm happy to bring my iPad and use that as an option. So,
We can also, I guess, gauge on how much of the stuff needs to be presented in physical copies as well. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, we all have access to those bylaws and everything digitally. So if it was something, I know it has to be within the report because
yep.
it's necessary, but maybe, I mean, that's just one particular instance, but maybe also just through staff gauging, like
Well,
whether it's stuff necessary to be physical.
And
versus-
sometimes even if we wanted to cut it in half, sharing sometimes, I think.
Yeah, sharing would be good. And then also only the stuff that we're actually gonna discuss. Like a lot of times I see the house plan, the physical plan. I don't think anybody's really looking at that physical plan.
It's just interesting, but it
It's
wasn't needed.
interesting,
Yeah.
but, right, you get ideas from it, but it's not what we're actually looking at.
So,
Oh, yeah, of course. If you want physical copies too, we can always
Yeah.
go through with that and request it. And, the goal is to have all of the packets and everything done prior, before the day, even days before the meeting. So even if it's something that we can compile digitally and send out to you guys in advance too, that might be beneficial. But-
Yeah, I don't want this to be overburdensome, okay? But I'm gonna throw out kind of a transition, if you will. Maybe like print out the reports, and drawings that are associated with each one. But all the attachments, don't print out the attachments or anything unless there's a specific concern that you guys already have.
Like, for instance,
that.
like the arborist reports would
Well,
be
but you could
necessary
also
because
put
it was
that
a
online and look at
concern.
it, too.
Yeah,
Sorry, Brian.
I
apologize.
agree,
interrupted
I
you.
agree, but sometimes,
Sometimes, yeah.
there are times where.
I think maybe we should do a hybrid where you print out 2 sets or 3 sets and then whoever brings their iPads can hook up, I assume, to the Wi-Fi here and go to our agenda. It has all the information
Yeah.
that we're getting our packets from, I believe, and just do a hybrid.
Yeah, I'll say right now
We
that
do just a couple of them.
That's a good.
What was that, Daniel?
Do a hybrid.
oh, after Tim's done talking, I'll go.
You're up. Is it about paper?
Yeah, so I was seeing like during the meeting tonight, I've got dual monitors here, and exactly like Tim said, I had the agenda pulled up and was just clicking on what I needed to see it. I mean, it was so much better than like flipping through stacks of paper. I mean, that's how I work anyway. So it's, I mean, super efficient. I know I don't know if we'd be able to get extra monitors or even have room in, up there for them, but it, it works pretty well.
Yeah, I'll try bringing my laptop and just see how it works.
I'm happy to bring my
Me too.
iPad if you send it digitally ahead of time and just refer to that.
And I think almost, yeah, and if you wanted to make it, you could combine it in one big PDF, that makes it easier. to
Right.
scroll through or something,
Yeah.
but not too much overhead.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw it out there just because, for instance, like we always make extras too, just in case. So then we had, an extra for Laura, of course, and then 2 more. So there's 2 more packets that just kind of are a waste.
Yeah, exactly.
I did want to put out there that besides the comprehensive plan, other plans that we have, I do have at least 1 printed copy in a binder in my office. And I'm so happy to run and get that or lend it out, but it will be like a library system. Like you're gonna have to sign a card and bring it back.
Your driver's license.
But I think we should have a place that we go, just like on the agenda, that we just click the link for all these different things and we
think
have
that
our
makes sense.
laptop. And that's how we go to whatever question we have.
Yeah, I think that
You
makes sense. I like it.
Sweet. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no problem. But on the reminders, remind us about laptops.
And when we send the meeting reminders out, we can put the note on there too. And I don't know if that's something that we, need to implement, officially by the next meeting, but I just wanted to throw it out there and have that discussion and see what you guys were thinking and what direction we were wanting to
I
head.
feel greener already.
Yep, sweet.
All right, well, I think if there's no further discussion, we'll close this meeting at 8:44. But I'm very glad we had this meeting because I haven't seen you guys in a long time. So very happy to see everybody. All right. Bye, Daniel.
See you guys.